When people talk about horror games, they tend to bring up the usual suspects. A good example is of course the Resident Evil franchise, two notable games right here, Resident Evil 4 and of course Resident Evil Code Veronica, two great games. Another obvious choice for people is of course the Silent Hill franchise, my favourite being Silent Hill 2. But there are lesser known games out there. A good example is this one right here, Haunting Ground, released by Capcom. And for today's review, and this is really one of my favourite games on the PlayStation 2, which is based on the horror genre, this one right here, Forbidden Siren. In this review I'll be telling you the good and the bad, so with that said, let's get to it.
We begin with story, and it's a pretty damn interesting one for sure. The overall plot takes place in a dark and isolated Japanese village. Now, this village is crazy mad on religious beliefs, and through magical yet mysterious ways, the village is now trapped between time and space, forever surrounded by a dark red sea. Meaning that our fellow survivors are now trapped and must seek a way out, whilst also avoiding the town locals who have now become these zombie-like creatures known as Shibito. So that all sounds pretty rad, and trust me, it is. The story for this game is probably the best part about it, as it makes you feel like you're playing through an old Japanese horror film, and the stories behind each individual character are also quite interesting. Now let's talk about graphics quickly, and I'm going to be honest here, they aren't the best, but they do get the job done and the atmosphere of the game is spot on. However, regarding actual visual fidelity, it's kinda, yeah. I mean, Silent Hill 2 came out before this game and it looks way better. What is cool about the visuals though, is how Project Siren were able to capture and incorporate the look and feel of an old and run down Japanese village, and with that adds into the very scary and creepy feel of the game. So Forbidden Siren may not look as good as some other games, but it really does try. On to the interesting part, and it's of course gameplay. Now, even though I said that this is one of my favourite horror games on the PS2, it doesn't really mean it has to have perfect gameplay to be one of my favourite games. Now hear me out on this one. Forbidden Siren is an odd yet hard game to play. It's not your typical Silent Hill or Resident Evil type game. If anything, it's kinda like Splinter Cell or even Metal Gear. There is a lot of stealth in this game, and at times can be slow paced gameplay, which for some may be off-putting. I understand it. I know it was for me at first, and it doesn't really help when this game is quite hard and unforgiving too. But what do you actually do? Well, the game consists of multiple different stages, and in those stages you play as different characters and you're given primary and sometimes secondary objectives that can be completed. These objectives often involve reaching a certain point in the map while avoiding enemies, to escorting someone, and of course picking up important story items and then escaping. So you do have a mix of objectives within the game, and all of these provide very tense and sometimes even scary situations. And I'm not just saying scary because it's a horror game, this game has actually scared me before, which is, well, quite impressive. And luckily for you, you can even defend yourself while in the game by picking up various different objects lying about in the world, and if you're lucky you may even find a gun. Just don't go expecting to win any fights, since you will get your ass kicked. The AI are relentless. Not to forget, you can also use the sight jack feature to help you, which allows you to view the world through the eyes of the enemies near you, allowing you to pick up their movement patterns, check if they're armed, and of course where they are. But the gameplay can get a little bit repetitive after a while, and since this is more of a stealth game than anything at times, you may end up wishing for a little bit more. Overall, if you're looking for a challenging and somewhat scary game at times, then look no further, as Forbidden Siren has you covered. Just don't go expecting a complete thrill ride like Silent Hill offers, for example. I mean, sure, Forbidden Siren has a few problems in the gameplay and graphics department, but everything else is pretty much, well, good. So if you find the game for cheap, then I highly suggest picking it up. But with that said, thanks for watching my little review for Forbidden Siren, and if you have any suggestions for games for me to review, then please do comment down below. I'll catch you guys next time.